Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start with a story in which the war for a parking space was fought to the death. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Mischief managed. I lived in a condo complex in Phoenix that was just this draconian with the rules. We had assigned spaces, and if someone like a visitor parked in your spot and you called management, they would tell you to call the tow company. They would only issue a fine in these circumstances if it was an ongoing issue we reported, so not very helpful to the residents. I had the parking spot on the end, in the spot I just passed where the covered parking ended, so my car didn't have anything overhead. My neighbor took a job working for a plumbing company driving one of those really tall vans and didn't have the right clearance overhead, so I let him park in my spot and I parked in his, right next to each other. One day, we both received parking tickets for not being in the assigned spaces, $60 each. We also didn't have recourse in our contract, and I wish we could have done something annoying with the payment like OP. My neighbor did have a petty solution, however. Out in front of our clubhouse on the main street, the road curved and was painted such that only one car could really park there. The Lord of Fines that worked in the office was the bitter lady working for management that delighted in all her little power trips, and she parked in this spot since it was basically 20 feet from her desk. My friend got off work at 8 a.m. every morning and started parking there every day since she came in at 9. This forced her to park in the unassigned spaces on the far side of the complex, about 200 yards away. She asked him to park somewhere else, and he refused, telling her that he had the perfect spot, but she fined him. It was very gratifying knowing she inconvenienced herself out of a good parking spot. And our next story. Terrible lady whom I tried to consult. This story all happened when I was 17. And, well, this is 1997. I tell the tale to anyone I ever hear say that being a waitress or retail worker is an easy job. Not one single person who's ever worked in the services industry would agree with this statement. They deal with crazy and entitled people all the time and have to be nice to them in order to make a paycheck. This story certainly proves it. CB, older woman in her 70s, terrible customer by the way, no one ever wanted to serve her. Me, B equals boss, W1 is waitress coworker, W2 is waitress coworker. So the story goes. I was a hostess at a popular restaurant deli and was still in my junior year of high school. Thin, nervous, and certainly not the woman I am today, I now fight my battles and never let entitled people swindle me anymore. Back during this time in my life, however, I was a pushover. I always backed away from confrontation at all costs, as I was a wallflower. We had a lovely work group at this place. We always helped each other out like family. It was a great high school job, and most of the time I made great tips. 2 waitresses who were older than me would switch picking me up from work as they were friends with my sister and one of my bandmates. I'm actually still in the same band to this day. One day, once I was settled by the hostess section, I noted this infamous, awful older woman came into our restaurant. Purple hair, bedazzled shirt, cane. No one ever wanted to serve her. I knew this and tried to use my young girl charm to seat the woman quickly to at least keep the peace. I didn't blame the other waitresses for this, as she was infamously known for leaving a tip in pennies. I kid you not, pennies. Mind you, not even worth $1. Maybe 20 cents if we were lucky. She was also incredibly stuck up and rude all the time to anyone who disobeyed her requests. One of the waitresses said to me, she'll make her wait for a while. Smiling devilishly, I said, I can at least get her started with some coleslaw and some pickles to keep her entertained. W1, from this point on, said, good luck, she's evil. They knew I'd not yet dealt with her personally and warned me about her high horse attitude. I really wondered if she was just some lonely older woman, possibly without a husband anymore, and that she might need some TLC to ease her bad mood. Walking up to her table, I brought the pickles and coleslaw to her and placed them down with a chipper attitude. Here you go, ma'am, some coleslaw and pickles while you wait. She looks up at me and just grimaces. So I see your waitresses are being lazy as usual. You're just a bus girl. Why are you serving me? Stunned for a second, as I'm actually a hostess, and appalled over her reply, I try to ignore her comment. I smile and walk away. W1 was in the waitress station towards the back of the restaurant. Psst, come here, saying to me. I walk over and she starts laughing. I told you she's nasty. So W1 and W2 played rock, paper, scissors to see who would have to serve her. Sadly, W2 lost. She sighed and grabbed a menu to bring to the nasty CB. CB was taking her time as usual, letting new customers wait to make their order. The waitress a few times tried to say, "I'll give you more time," yet was told to stay, "I'll pick now." This, of course, didn't happen, much to the W2's frustration. She shoots a look at W1 as she smiled, laughing. We figured CB was doing this as she noticed no one wanted to wait on her. After CB finally picked off the menu, I saw W2 walk away, sighing in relief to put her order in. It took her 15 minutes to pick the same meal she gets every time. I'm not joking, every time. Now to sidestep. My old boss was a spineless sea urchin of a man. He never fought back against squabbles or confrontations in the restaurant and would often just give things out for free if the snotty customer we had to serve got loud. I imagine this is why his business suffered so much and sometimes we didn't get paid on time. Back to the story. The cook in the kitchen knew that he had no leeway in altering or messing up this CB's food. This had been tried before to get back at her, always treating the staff like crap. These times did not end well as she was a monster and apparently had a good palate. The best thing we had as firepower was to make her wait sometimes. Also, mind you, she would often stay at the table for hours reading a paper well after she'd finished her meal, just to aggravate us waitstaff further. Even during rush hour, our B wouldn't do a thing, ever. So here comes me, walking toward the hostess station, and I hear, "Girl, come here." I turn around, and it was the nasty CB looking at me. I looked at her, and with my best customer service smile say, "Yes, how can I help you, ma'am?" She picks up her fork and states, "I really kid you not, my fork is too straight. I need a new one." Baffled at this strange request, I pick a fork out of the silverware bin and try to find one that was more curved than the one she had. I presented this to her, and she eats with it for a while, not even saying thank you. 15 minutes or so pass, and I'm cleaning up another table to seat some new guests. She waves her hand at me and snaps her fingers, clearing her throat, obviously upset. The present customers look at me and shake their heads at how rude this woman was being. As the wallflower I was, I ignored my inner rage and walked toward the nasty CB. "Yes, how can I help you, ma'am?" She snottily answers, "This fork is too straight. Get me a new one now." At this point, W1 and W2 are laughing, seeing me getting angry. They did warn me, to be fair. I guess this was the hazing part of the job where you grew a thicker skin. I tried my best to smile, looked through the silverware bin, comparing forks, and handed her a new one. This should do. She throws the fork down on the table and says, "This is too straight. Look for a new one." At this point, the place was rather packed and busy. I started to get even more angry at the obnoxious lady. I told her she'll have to wait until I seat the new guests. She snapped at me and said that I was a terrible bus girl and I should be fired. I really started getting mad. After seating the next line of queued customers, I walk back to her and try to be civil. "Is everything to your liking now, ma'am?" Forgetting that she wanted a less straight fork. She huffed at me and snapped her fingers for the B to come over. He was always plumply sitting on his register seat. He even ignored her and went back to ringing up the well-fed lunchtime people needing to pay. Now this CB was angry. She looked at me and said, "If you can't do your job, why are you even working here? I asked for a better fork. You obviously are too stupid to hold this job if you can't do as you're told." I effing lost it completely. W1 and W2 know me well, and seeing my face realized this nasty older woman had just lost the war. I may have been a wallflower, but you cannot call me stupid or insult me in such a way. I will fight back after a while. Both of them start to laugh and take a seat at an empty table away from CB's view to watch the fireworks. I look at this CB and stare her down like she just killed my dog. Turning around, I grab another fork from the bin and bend it completely in half, slamming it straight into her now cold food. She jumps a second and looks incredibly startled. I wasn't finished yet. I put both my hands on the table and let loose. "So, you wanted a curved fork? Here you go, you old rat bee. I'm sick and tired of you acting like you own the place. You're rude, obnoxious, and incredibly messed up if you think I'm going to tolerate your effed up attitude towards the help here. We work our butts off and don't need people like you ruining our days because you're a bitter old maid. Now, eat with this fork. Oh, and save those pennies for our tip and give it to someone who gives a crap. W1 and W2 knew they had to intervene, seeing how I'd just blown my top in front of 10 customers eating. They had all stopped and were looking at this lady and I. W1 and W2 run over to the CB to try to talk to her. Huffing mad, I walked straight towards my B and explained to him what this terrible CB was doing to me. He tried to calm me down and say, "She's just old and lonely. She's rude to everyone and not to take it personally." By this time, the old CB was angrily walking up to B and I, muttering nasty words. The customers around her were staring at her astonished, as most were there long enough to know why I blew up at her. "Your bus girl is a demonic person. I demand you fire her and give me a full refund on my meal. She's a barbarian and should be terminated." She slams her hand on the counter in front of my B. He, for the first time, leans into her and tells her this: "Lady, I'm sick and tired of your meddling ways. You were the most rude customer I've ever had, and at this point, I'm telling you to pay and never come back. You're no longer welcome. As far as the fork goes, she was right to have done that. I wish it was me." This was the day I learned how to stand up for myself. Also, we never saw her again, and our waitstaff was overjoyed. I became a hero after that, and the girls gave me a better tip percent as a reward. So in the long run, I'm actually happy this lady pushed me so far. I learned that I can defend myself, and ever since then, I don't let entitled people push me around. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.